We have seen that the new Prime Minister, UK Prime Minister, has said that we need some time. It's a new government. It is what we can say is normal that they need some time. But that said, the EU and unanimously at EU level or at member states, they have urged and they have been pretty consistent to go ahead and deal with that. It is very important because this uncertainty creates a lot of question marks, especially for business and who everybody is asking what is happening, what kind of deal, also sovereign nations that they have entered into treaties, third countries that have entered into treaties with the EU, what will be the effect when they depart, how long will it take, are the agreements that we did as EU-28 still valid, etc. So all this needs to be removed. So what are the prospects? Impossible to tell, but you have read in the press that they say that there is the Swiss model where Switzerland has negotiated over 100 treaties with the EU. It's one of our closest partners, Switzerland, or they are talking about the Norwegian model, whereby Norway is a part of the European Economic Area together with Iceland and Liechtenstein, and they have full access into the EU internal market. I will talk about it in a second, but they don't have the right to vote or make any decisions on the EU regulations. Others say that you can simply trade or try to make a deal as a WTO member. But again, the UK is part of the WTO as part of the EU, so they would need to do also some readjustment in its relations with the WTO. So you know there are a lot of options, or you can negotiate a free trade agreement with the EU, as Canada, Singapore, or hopefully New Zealand will do. So all the options that are on the table. I think it's important to say that. Again, EU leaders, because they had a meeting 27 after the EU Council of the 26th of June, the following day that was at EU27, there was an informal meeting of the 27. Again, they were unanimous in saying we would welcome a swift and good deal with the UK. We want to have a good deal, but there's not going to be any cherry picking. Let's be honest, there is, and let's be straightforward. The internal market, which makes it appealing so much to everyone, it is based on 4 fundamental freedoms, which is free movements of goods, services, capitals, and labor. If you want to have access to the internal market, you have to accept all those 4 freedoms, and there can be no cherry picking. So this is where we stand, and how to try now at this stage to attempt to say how may or may not look the situation after this Article 50 is triggered, or how it's going to affect, for instance, whatever deal the EU and the UK are going to make third countries that are entering into negotiations or deals with us is very, very difficult to anticipate, because it will all depend what is going to be the final deal. And at this stage, you know, there are no signs, because, I mean, and it's an observation that at least the side that in the UK that fought for Brexit, they have not yet presented a program or a vision or a way out. So we have not seen it yet. So it's very difficult also to speculate on that. So it is fair to say that with this in mind, uncertainty lingers. We have seen already markets reacting, although they recovered. We have seen rating agencies downgrading the UK's AAA rating. We have seen what happened with the pound. We can argue also the New Zealand dollar. Its price has risen, and it's considered like a safe currency, which it affects New Zealand. So you see, in a globalized world, there are no isolated problems somewhere in the world that do not affect every citizen of this world, whether it is terrorism, migration, the UK problem, or let's say a situation in Ukraine, or you name it. So, which brings me to I think my last point, just as a conclusion, is there is no doubt, with all this crisis, as your leaflet says, that there is some profound thinking now in the EU. You have the nationalistic and populist movements within the EU. You have this sense of uncertainty and insecurity with the terrorist attacks. There is also a bit of frustration that EU, is it reacting well? It's not anticipating, it is not there where it should be, or where the citizens they want to be. So there is a lot of thinking of how we can do better, because we are the EU after all. We are an economic, even at the EU27 we are going to be the most important market and the most prosperous market in the world, still with high standards of social security, of education, of innovation, of greening, and leaders in development aid and development assistance, the leaders on the climate change portfolio. But still, it seems that we have a lot of our citizens that are unhappy, that they are angry, and it is reflected in multiple elections. So I think also the UK referendum, if that's a personal thought, will enhance this thinking, and it will make sure that EU leaders they will work even harder to bring solutions to internal EU problems. And I didn't speak about the recovery of the EU, the economic, and the euro. We can discuss during the Q&A, but also externally. And my feeling is that we have seen the EU leaders that they want to continue business as usual, and to enhance and deepen our ongoing conversations, discussions, partnerships with the nations around the world. So maybe a situation, no matter how regretful it is, such as the decision of the UK people to leave the EU, will at the same time, bring also opportunities to conclude the EU-New Zealand deals quicker and with a great outcome. But as I said, all that is, even that can be a speculation, but what I can say it is, I sense and I see an unswerving, a total commitment from the EU side and the EU leadership and the EU presidents to bring responses that they are both there for our citizens, but also for the nations that they work with us. And especially in the case with New Zealand, we saw that this same week there has been an intense diplomatic let's say, intense diplomatic encounters. Your foreign minister, as I said, is in Ulaanbaatar and meeting with our high representative. Your trade minister met with the EU commissioner on the margins of the G20 trade ministers in Shanghai. And your prime minister is in France as today, but he was also in Italy, he was in the UK, and all, I think, to make also certain from New Zealand's part that relations with the EU and what we have started with the EU remains a priority, and we want to move ahead, and we hope that the UK referendum result is not going in any case puts any brake into all those initiatives, and I can say quite confidently that it's not going to do.